Imagine that the car which took the life of one of Hollywood's brightest actors became the bearer of a sinister curse. What if it wasn't just a tragic accident, but the beginning of a series of strange and mystical events that accompany this car even decades later? And what if I told you that such a car is quite real? Today I will tell you about the little bastard. James Dean's Porsche, which many claim continues to sow death even after its owner is gone. Why did this car become synonymous not only with speed and glamour but also with fatalistic doom? And what happened to it and to those who dared to touch its parts? In this video I will reveal all the details you might not know about the most cursed car in film history. Spoiler, its story is far from over. Who is James Dean? Today we will talk about a man whose name became synonymous with rebellion, tragedy, and eternal youth. James Dean was born in Indiana, to a family of an ordinary farmer, but life quickly took a sharp turn. When the boy was 6 years old, his father swapped the plow for a dentist's chair, and the family moved to sunny California. But soon the boy faced his first life blow. Dean's mother, his closest person, died of cancer. The father couldn't cope with the loss and sent his son back to Indiana to relatives. It was there, among the endless fields and the strict morals of the Quaker family, that the future iconic actor began to take shape. Dean grew up capable and energetic. In school, he excelled in basketball and baseball, participated in debates and theatrical productions. But besides that, he had three peculiar passions: martial arts, car racing, and bullfighting. These were instilled in him by a priest with whom Dean had a complex and ambiguous relationship. Later, in a candid conversation with Elizabeth Taylor, he confessed that he had been abused as a child. It is quite possible that this event left a deep mark on the star's character, making him both vulnerable and daring. After school, Dean moves to California, tries his hand at law, but quickly realizes that his future lies not in law, but in the arts. Dean enrolls in the University of California, but drops out to pursue an acting career and achieves his first major success with a role in the production of Macbeth. However, the path to fame was thorny. While waiting for big roles, he worked as a parking attendant at CBS Studios and seized any opportunity he could. Everything changed when he ended up in New York and enrolled in the legendary Lee Strasberg acting studio. Marlon Brando and Paul Newman, the best of the best, also studied there. He wrote to his relatives about having entered the shrine of acting mastery. From that moment, his career began to gain momentum. But, as it turned out, his time was limited. After Dean got the role in the film East of Eden, the actor became fascinated with racing. He repeatedly purchased sports cars and motorcycles. His collection included beauties like the Triumph Tiger TI-110 and Porsche 356. Dean even planned to participate in the famous Indianapolis 500 race. In the mid-50s, the young racer decided to once again add a new sports car to his garage. This time, his choice fell on a car that would directly influence his fate, the Porsche 550 Spider. Why did he choose this particular car? It's simple. This car was a true racing machine built for winners. With a lightweight aluminum body and mid-engine layout, the 550 Spider had outstanding maneuverability and dynamics, making it ideal for racing. What about the technical specifications? Under the hood of the 550 Spider was a 1.5-liter four-cylinder boxer engine with 4 camshafts, producing about 110 horsepower at 6,200 revolutions per minute. Combined with a weight of only about 1,300 pounds, this allowed the car to accelerate to impressive speeds and show excellent performance on the track. By the way, only about 90 units of this model were produced, making it truly rare and desirable among collectors. And now about the famous Little Bastard inscription on the body. The story goes that the nickname Little Bastard was given to Dean by Jack Warner, the head of Warner Brothers, who once called him that after the actor refused to leave a temporary trailer on the set. Dean decided to immortalize this nickname by putting it on his new Porsche 550 Spider. Thus, the car received its legendary name, becoming an integral part of its history. The end of September 1955. James Dean, a rising star of Hollywood and a passionate race car driver, is preparing for the upcoming weekend races in Salinas. With him is Porsche factory mechanic Rolf Wüthrich. Their companions Bill Hickman and photographer Sanford Roth are following in a Ford Country Squire with a trailer, planning a photo shoot for a magazine, Collier's. Dean decides not to tow his Little Bastard, but to drive it himself to Salinas to better feel the car before the competition. Around 3:30 in the afternoon, they are stopped by a patrol officer for speeding. Dean was driving at 65 miles per hour in a 55 zone. After receiving a ticket, they continue their journey, choosing a faster route via Highway 16633. This highway is better known as the Racers Road. In the area of Blackwell's Corner, they make a stop where they meet other racers, where Lance Reventlow and Bruce Kessler, who are heading to Salinas in a Mercedes-Benz 300 Vesima Dor Soramar Tolt or SL. After agreeing to meet for dinner in Paso Robles, Dean and Wüterich set off again. Approaching the intersection of Highway 466 and 41, Dean accelerates, leaving the accompanying Ford far behind. At this time, 23-year-old student Donald Turnipseed in a 1950 Ford Tudor makes a left turn, not noticing the rapidly approaching Porsche. Dean tries to avoid the collision, but the distance is too short. A nearly head-on collision occurs. Dean's light sports car flips over several times, while the heavier Ford is thrown back 40 feet. Witnesses rush to help. Dean is extracted from the wrecked car with severe injuries, a broken neck, multiple fractures, and internal damage. He is urgently taken to Paso Robles Hospital, but despite the doctor's efforts, James Dean passed away at 6:20 in the evening. Rolf Wüterich survived, sustaining serious injuries including fractures of the jaw and hip. Donald Turnipseed escaped with minor facial injuries and, after being questioned, hitchhiked home. The tragic death of James Dean at the age of 24 shocked the world and became a symbol of the fatal combination of speed, youth, and eventually, ill fate. The investigation into the accident began shortly after the tragedy. On October 11, 1955, a court hearing was held in San Luis Obispo. The key witness was Donald Turnipseed, the very student who was driving the Ford. He stated that he simply did not see the low silver Porsche until the moment of the collision. His words were confirmed by highway patrol officers and eyewitnesses, after which the court ruled the accident as an unfortunate incident, and Turnipseed was fully acquitted. But being acquitted in court is one thing, and living with that burden is quite another. For Turnipseed, this accident became a true nightmare. He gave a single interview to the Tulare Advance Register newspaper right after the incident, and then complete silence. Until the end of his days, he refused to talk about that night, as if trying to erase it from his memory. Later, he achieved success in business, but he couldn't escape his own fate. At the age of 63, he died of lung cancer. And what about Rolf Wüterich, the passenger of the Little Bastard and the man who witnessed Dean's last moments? After the accident, he underwent several major surgeries, but the physical injuries were only part of his problems. Living with the memory of that catastrophe proved to be even more difficult. Wüterich returned to Germany, where he worked in the testing department of Porsche, continued racing, but, as if mirroring Dean's fate, died in a car accident. In the summer of 1981, Rolf lost control and crashed into a house. The irony of fate, he also had to be pulled out of the car, but this time there was no chance. And this is where the strangest part begins. A few weeks before his death, James Dean appeared in a public service announcement aimed at reminding drivers to be cautious on the road. In the interview scene, he was supposed to say the warning phrase, "The life you save may be your own." But at the last moment, Dean changed the text and said, "The life you might save could be mine." Sounds like an ominous prophecy, doesn't it? But don't be alarmed. The most sinister part awaits us ahead. The oddities began on the evening of September 23, 1955. British actor Alec Guinness and his friend Thelma Moss couldn't find an available table at the restaurant and were about to leave when they accidentally ran into James Dean. He invited them to his table and proudly showed off his latest acquisition, a gleaming silver Porsche 550 Spider. He enthusiastically explained that this car could reach speeds of up to 150 miles per hour. Guinness, according to his own words, felt a strange, inexplicable unease at that moment, and then, as if someone else was speaking through him, he uttered a phrase that sounded like a curse. "Please do not get behind the wheel of this car under any circumstances. It is 10 o'clock in the evening on the 23rd of September 1955. If you get into it by the end of next week, you will be dead." Dean just smirked. "Nonsense. Don't be so difficult." And immediately changed the subject. "Don't be so..." Guinness was embarrassed, apologized, citing fatigue and hunger, but the troubling feeling did not leave him all week. Then came the 30th of September, and his words came true. James Dean got behind the wheel of his Porsche and never got out of it again. It is quite possible that it was on this evening that the famous curse of the Little Bastard was cast. By the way, what happened to the car after the accident? One of the most famous customizers of that time, George Barris, bought the wrecked car of the deceased Dean. And soon, strange things began to happen around it. According to Barris, the car would spontaneously fall apart, fall off platforms, injure people, and even cause fatal accidents. Of course, many believed that Barris simply enjoyed making up sensational stories, especially since none of these incidents were confirmed by the press. But what is truly known is that parts of the Little Bastard did indeed cause tragedy. The engine of the Little Bastard was purchased by surgeon William Eschrich, who installed it on the chassis of a Lotus race car. Another racer, Dr. Troy McHenry, used the suspension and steering pendulum arms from the cursed car in his vehicle, and while Eschrich merely collided with another car in the race and survived, McHenry was not so lucky. His car lost control due to steering failure, veered off the track, and crashed into a tree. He died instantly. This incident became the basis for the legend of the curse. Since then, the Little Bastard gained a reputation as a killer car that wouldn't release its victims even after the death of its owner. After James Dean's death, his Little Bastard seemed to continue living its sinister life. The wrecked body, as you already know, ended up in the hands of George Barris. He was the first to start spreading rumors about the car's curse. Barris announced that he was going to restore the car, but in reality, he didn't carry out any serious work. Instead, he simply welded a sheet of aluminum to the damaged fender and tried to straighten the dents with a wooden board. Despite the lack of repairs, Barris found a new role for the car. The Porsche became a traveling exhibit. It was displayed at car shows, exhibitions, cinemas, and even bowling alleys, not just as a monument to tragedy, but as a vivid warning of the deadly danger of high speeds. The posters featured frightening slogans, and the car itself looked as if death was still sitting behind the wheel. But it gets even more interesting. In 1960, the Little Bastard was supposed to be transported from Florida to Los Angeles. It was loaded into a sealed train car and sent under the escort of Pinkerton detectives. You would think, what kind of mystification could there be? However, when the train arrived at its destination, the car had vanished without a trace. The train cars were opened, but there was not even a sign of the Porsche inside. Barris immediately fueled interest in the story by claiming that the car disappeared, as if it had dissolved into thin air. Some considered it mysticism, others a successful publicity stunt. But one way or another, since then, no one has seen the Little Bastard in its entirety, although its traces occasionally surfaced. One museum in Illinois claims to have a fragment of the body, a piece of metal supposedly cut from the section near the windshield. Another museum displays a passenger door, which is claimed to be an authentic part of Dean's car. In 2005, the owners of these artifacts were even offered a $1 million reward for proof of their authenticity. But no one came forward for the money. And what about the Porsche itself? Could it have been dismantled and sold to collectors? Or is it gathering dust in some forgotten garage, hidden from prying eyes? Perhaps it is still waiting for its moment to remind the world of its existence. After all, if the legend is to be believed, this car never brought luck to those who touched it. So, what do you think of the story? At first glance, it might seem like just an amusing legend, but when you start delving into the details, it becomes no laughing matter. It seems that the Little Bastard not only became a symbol of James Dean's tragic fate, but also an embodiment of something much darker, a sinister curse that does not release its victims. It's astonishing how just one incident, one accident, can give rise to such inexplicable events that continue for decades. But let's not rush to conclusions. Perhaps the legend of the German automobile industry lives on to this day, continuing its dark journey through the hands of collectors and car enthusiasts. Or maybe it's just a play of imagination. More precisely, a game for you and me. All these oddities and discrepancies remain an unsolved mystery, and no matter how we try to explain them rationally, one thing remains unchanged. The story of the Little Bastard is not forgotten, and its curse continues to stir the imagination and grow with myths. So remember, there are things better left untouched. And if you happen to encounter an old car with a frightening reputation, perhaps you should think twice before getting behind the wheel. After all, who knows what secrets lie behind these cars that have outlived their owners?